but the New Orleans Saints are making moves. It'll be an offseason full of moves for the Saints. You should see more and more crop up over the next couple of weeks. I want to handle it like this. I'm going to give the basic rundown of all the moves that were made, and then we can kind of dive into the idea behind them. So first, they have released Jared Cook and Josh Hill. Jared Cook saves no money, but he was due to be a free agent already, so I guess this is just more of a making it official type of deal, so they're not going to bring it back. And then Josh Hill, on the other hand, saves about $2.5 million. They've also extended and restructured David Onyemata's contract like they do, turning, I think it was this year's salary into a future signing bonus, meaning he's on the books for longer, but you free up $4.5 million in cap space there, essentially. I'm going to deal with round numbers. I don't want to get into like the 4.34s, right? So that's about $6 million, $7 million freed up right there. They did add to the books as they extend JT Gray, or they re-sign him to a 2-year, $4 million deal, $2 million guaranteed. And then Malcolm Brown is on the trade block right now. The nose. So where do you want to start?
No, you also, Will Lutz, they restructured his contract.
I missed this.
To create $1.7 million in salary cap space as well.
I mean, it shows you, dude. They're trying everything they can, man. They're having it. They're going to have to. It's not undoable. It's not impossible or anything like a lot of national talking heads would have you know. But it's also not easy, and it takes trying to find millions like in the couch cushions, right? So that's what that Will Lutz moves is. You may be like $1 million. What are you talking about? But every million matters this offseason with the New Orleans Saints. Let's start with the tight end news. Goodbye to Jared Cook, a player who showed a lot of potential at the end of 2019 in this system, did not have the 2020 he wanted, and ultimately will really just be remembered, sadly, for fumbles against in the playoffs against the Bucs. And then was it the Packers game, Danny, right? Wasn't it the Packers game? Or no, it was Taysom Hill that fumbled that time. But really, yeah, Jared Cook, unfortunately, going to be remembered for the Bucs. Your thoughts on Jared Cook?
Talented player. There was times when he made plays.
Look at that ball security, dude. What are we doing? What are we doing here, boys?
It's supposed to be high and tight, not low and loose.
High and tight. Look at that, kids. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/1045 ESPN, that's not good ball security.
But look, he had his moments, but the best players, it's easy. It's old cliche. The best players rise when the stage is the biggest, and he didn't. He actually fell off the stage when the stage was the
and
biggest.
And like you said, though, he did make some awesome plays. Remember when he sunned, who was it when he just jumped over him this season, just ripped a touchdown out in the end zone? So, like, if only those flashes could have become more consistent.
The Titans game, not last year, but the year before, when Saints were down big, and then he was a big part of the comeback. I mean, there's been moments, but like I said, when you're paying someone that much at that position, they have got to be primetime players, and unfortunately, that is when he struggled.
And so it's kind of funny, right? Because Jared Cook was the higher paid. He's a bigger name, more statistically successful. But Josh Hill will be the one who is missed far more. Remember back in 2019 when Josh Hill left the game, Sean Payton had likened it to losing your front door of your house. And it makes a lot of sense as an analogy because, like, you don't think about your front door often, but obviously it's a critical piece of your house, right? And you use it all the time. And that's what they did with Josh Hill. They used him all the time. They used him in a ton of different ways. Undrafted free agent from 2013 to 2021. I mean, he is not someone who's going to end up in the Saints Ring of Honor. He's not someone that the national people. He's not someone even casual Saints fans will really remember. But if you are like a black and gold diehard, you know the value of Josh Hill, and he's one of those great names that will always live in the back of your head as kind of one of those blue collar, good meat and sinew type of roster guys.
Look, if you look at like the player performance chart, so it's changed a little bit, but in the NFL, like if you came in as an undrafted free agent and you played 70% of the plays, man, you would get like a player performance bonus, and it'd be hundreds of thousands of dollars because you outplayed your contract, and that's a kind of a way to supplement that in the NFL. Now they've done away with it, but when I first got into the NFL, I didn't know that was a thing. And then I remember when my agent called me because I ended up starting my rookie year.
Oh, hell yeah.
I was like, wait, what? There's more, like you get more money? So this is a guy that outplayed his contract from day one. And you're exactly right. Like guys like that, they are kind of, the main structure of your team. Those guys that, they might be 30th on the roster if you rated everyone 1 through 53, but they are so important. And 12 personnel, he was in there so many times, and look, he didn't get the ball through the air, but he was a blocker, and he was a guy that did the dirty work. He played a lot of fullback as the NFL's kind of gone to that, and tight ends being fullbacks. And so, yeah, great career so far. I don't think he's done, but just because of the Saints cap right now, he's done with the Saints.
Yeah. So no, yeah, I think yeah, exactly. He'll catch on somewhere, but you free up $2.5 million with Hill. Speaking of kind of meat and sinew type of players, Jake, I know this is very near and dear to your heart, but the Saints extend JT Gray, who is, look, he gives you safety depth, sure, absolutely, but more than anything, he is a special teams beast. And who better to talk about than the value of the third and, the little brother phase of the game, than Jacob Hester, former NFL special teams captain.
Not the little brother. It is very important part.
You sound like every special teams coach that I've ever had trying to convince everybody that, this is worth it.
Hey, every offensive coordinator wants to end every possession in a kick. Am I wrong? That's the goal. Jimbo Fisher, always, every possession ends in a kick.
We're not counting punts?
Yeah, no, you count punts because that means you didn't turn the ball over.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So it is a very important phase.
Okay, fair.
Every team should have a special teams, as we like to call them, war daddy.
Yeah.
Every team's got one, and if you've got one that can help you if injuries occur on the offense or defensive side of the football, then you give him a contract. I mean, Slater's been doing it for the Patriots, it seems like, for 25 years. He's still on their roster. So, you got to have guys like this. You have to have core special teams guys because even more so now, like you get players like, let's take the 7th-round pick. Whoever the 7th-round pick is, well, he's probably a star at his college. Yeah. He didn't play a lot of special teams.
Yeah.
So it's harder now to find special teams guys to buy in and to be that core special teamer because they've never really done it. Like I've talked to plenty of GMs and scouts that were like, hey, we always like LSU guys because for whatever reason your coaches would put starters on special teams. Like in 07 on our punt team.
Miles was a huge fan of that.
Well, I mean, Coach O is too. Devin White was on the punt team his last year here. Our punt team in 07, me and Stelch were the guards. Early Doucette was a gunner, and JoJo LaFell was the other gunner. I mean, that's what it was. And you didn't think anything of it because you had always done it. So by the time you get to the NFL, right, you have a history of being a special teams guy. So, no, they're very important.
The more, and I was being a big tongue cheek. It is. The more you can do. But it is important. But generally, like, the importance that we really think about or see is, like, field goals. It's very visceral stuff. Guys like JT Gray, what they do doesn't always go as noticed, but is no less critical. And that is covering kicks, making plays. Justin Hardy.
Yeah,
is another guy that the Saints need to think, long, and hopefully he can get a similar contract to Gray. He can stick around as well because that's two of the parts why they've been so good in that regard. So from a couple meat and sinew type moves with Hill and JT Gray, this next one, this is a big name, and that is David Onyemata. Someone who started as a project, the Manitoba Mauler, didn't play college, didn't play football until very late in his life, didn't play college football in Canada. And then out of nowhere, the Saints are trading up to draft him, and with the idea that he was a project with a ton of untapped potential. And he's lived up to that. Every single year in the NFL, he has gotten better and better and better. And then this last year, it culminates in 6 sacks from the interior for Onyamada, which in terms of like helping out the entire pass rush as a whole, what helps Cam Jordan, Trey Hendrickson, Marcus Davenport off the edge, having some push up the middle, and Onyemata was a key with that.
If you don't have push up the middle, so any good quarterback is going to have pocket presence. And if you try to collapse the edges, well, what's he going to do? He's going to step up in the pocket, and he's going to find a way to get the ball off, right? Kind of to throw it in terms that I think all of us will remember, Joe Burrow on 3rd and 17 against Texas. He steps up in the pocket, buys himself just enough time, gets the throw off. But if you've got a dog in the middle, if you've got a guy that can rush the passer from the interior of the defensive line, well, it takes away that option as well, right? That's what makes the Rams so dangerous because Aaron Donald is pushing the pocket from the middle. Then you've got guys on the edge that collapse the pocket. There's nowhere to go. That's why it's so important because if you have a dog off the edge, but he can't get home because the quarterback knows what he's doing in the pocket, then it doesn't really do you a whole lot of good. You've got to have an interior threat as well.
Yeah, so congrats to Onyemata getting some of that money now that it's a signing bonus, and the Saints for getting some money off of the books. Whenever his eventual next contract does come up, I have a feeling this dude's going to get paid.
Yep.
So maybe he won't even be in New Orleans. So enjoy the time with
Dollar
Onyamada.
bills.
Also, I think so. You do this with Onyemata. I wonder what they end up doing with Sheldon Rankins
And Malcolm Brown, too.
And Malcolm. So Malcolm Brown is interesting. He's on the trading block reportedly. Shout out to my guy Dave, the owner of Goldmine. Dave was talking about this during the playoffs. There's actually a pretty interesting statistical correlation between, because we all know how good that Saints run defense was and has been. Well, who was the big man in the middle for most of that streak? It was Malcolm Brown. And if you look at the games he missed, I believe he was out that Philly game where they finally had the 100-yard streak broken and everything. And so there is some interesting correlation, not saying it's a sole cause, between him being out and the Saints' rush defense not being as dominant as it has been traditionally.
Yeah, and I don't think it's his play. I think it's just the dollar figure. That's
absolutely.
It is what it is. And, Saints, you kind of did this to yourself, like with the cap number. We understand that, but
it's okay. So they did do it to themselves, but also this goes back to what we were talking about teasing this segment is like, whoever expected the NFL cap to drop? Whoever expected the NFL cap to drop by $40 million? Because the only way that was going to happen was if you had lost revenue. Well, the NFL is a money printing machine, so like nobody accounted for this in their future plans. And so now, Jake, I feel like you're going to have a ton of middle class guys completely squeezed out. Like Sheldon Rankins is hitting the market right now. What a terrible time to be hitting the market.
Yeah.
There's just not money to go around.
I mean, you would still be about $30 million over, even if you add in that $40 million. But $30 million is doable. We've seen the Saints do that. I mean, almost.
That ain't anything to Mickey. $30 million. That's a sandwich. Right. I mean, he figures that out on a lunch break.
$69 million. That's a completely different.
Yeah, I think that's where they're at now. Right? They got $69 million left.
I don't. Obviously, there's moves that are going to be made, but I just wonder how much it takes away from the roster, what you can do to add to the roster. And you're right about that middle class. And I know we have to go, but that middle class is the ones. That's who's going to be affected by this. Is those middle class players that you've been able to justify their salary for so long because they do help your team, but now you can't justify it because you're going to try to go younger and have those rookie deals, and it's a damn shame. You're going to have really good players in the street.
I will say this. If you're one of these teams with a lot of cap space and a war chest, you could assemble a pretty interesting grab bag of vets at a way better price than you would normally get, right? If you can snatch up some of those middle-class guys, and everybody's going to want short contracts as well because they're going to want to re-hit the market at a more advantageous time. So going to be a fascinating offseason for the NFL. The Saints continuing to make moves. We'll make some moves as we fly into the future, 19 hours into the future, talking to Emmett Skilton, the man who plays young Coach O, young Coach O on The Young Rock. So keep it locked right here on OTBOT.